Okay, gentlemen, things are heating up quickly. The G7 nations are all in panic mode, and we are getting closer to economic Armageddon. What Trump plans to do would permanently alter global commerce, and we have assurance that February will be the month of tragedy. These tariffs on Mexico and Canada are still in the works. February 1st might be day X for the global economy. Let's look at what Trump has confirmed. An extra 10% tax on China is coming. A 25% tax on Canada and Mexico may come in only 2 days. The mechanism is also highly significant. It will not be a progressive increase starting at 2.5%. Trump may implement a 25% tariff straight now, and that will jolt the entire system. Any existing loopholes will be closed. Tariffs presently do not apply to packages valued at $800. However, Washington will study the proposal and most likely reject it. And if that happens, any export, regardless of size, that enters the United States might face harsh penalties. However, this action will not preserve U.S. manufacturing. It might make matters worse. Members of the Federal Reserve first raised concerns in 2019. Higher tariffs, weaker global growth, and the dollar's rise have all had a direct impact on U.S. company investment. In other words, tariffs depress demand in the United States and throughout the world. Consider this. If Trump applies a 25% tax, U.S. consumers would pay more for less, forcing them to cut spending. Let us not forget about reprisals from the rest of the globe. Tariffs can also be imposed by countries ranging from China to Canada. They would also target the United States' largest exports. During Trump's first trade war, the globe retaliated against U.S. commerce, particularly food imports. As a result, one of America's most important industries, agriculture, suffered significant economic losses. Retaliation tariffs cost the United States $27 billion in food exports over the course of 2 years. China accounted for 95% of the harm, while Mexico and the EU also slashed U.S. exports by $1 billion. What we observed was concerted action against the United States. At this point, nothing will change. The world economy is on the verge of a recession. Interest rates are still at record highs, and inflation is highly tenacious. The last thing the world needs is for unemployment to rise. Trump's tariffs might cause a collapse in global exports, resulting in enormous unemployment. The EU, of course, would be the most impacted. Their economy is in freefall. Industries ranging from chemicals to automobiles are dying due to their inability to compete with the global market. It is hardly surprising that Europe is ready to react. Their economic commissioner has assured that the EU's response will be appropriate. The economic battle is about to begin. Now it's the globe versus the United States, and the struggle will be one of financial attrition. Europe will not be able to prevail on its alone, but the global economy as a whole has the potential to crush the United States. If there was one mistake Trump made in Davos, it was revealing his plan. Scolding the globalists was fun, but threatening to deindustrialize the globe is not. Trump's offer, which is essentially a veiled threat, has the potential to deindustrialize many countries throughout the world, particularly those with very weak economies. Now, since the Russian-Ukraine war, there have been obvious winners and losers. China has benefited greatly from the availability of low-cost Russian gas. As energy costs fall, their production becomes more competitive. That explains China's $1 trillion trade surplus. However, just a third of their trade surplus came from the United States. Chinese commerce is sufficiently diversified. Therefore, Trump's methods and taxes do not frighten Beijing at all. If tariffs are imposed on China, it will be just another Tuesday afternoon. However, the situation is not the same in Europe. Energy costs in the Eurozone are just ridiculous. The European Union pays 4 times more for energy than the United States, making Trump's tariff threat much more alarming. Even a 10% tax on European imports is enough to wipe out their industry. Trump plans to demolish more than just the climate change agenda. He plans to demolish Europe's economy in real time. And if the EU does not respond, we should anticipate other firms, such as Volkswagen, to relocate operations to the United States. The United Kingdom is also in panic mode, and like the rest of the G7, the British economy is heavily based on trade with the United States. They followed Biden into the frying pan, and now Trump is going to throw them right into the fire. Over the previous 2 years, the UK has had a huge trade surplus with the United States, which is expected to exceed £71 billion by 2023. So British exporters sold more than they came in. With tariffs, the surplus in commodities might come to an end. And while British exports are primarily services, Trump may attack those as well. It may seem strange, but this is Donald Trump, and nothing is off the table. The UK economy is urging Trump not to apply tariffs since it is in the same scenario as Europe, with economic stagnation and rising energy prices. So, in February, as a response to Trump, we could see a coalition of victims banding together to fight back. Canada is preparing to speak with ally countries threatened by Trump, including the EU, Britain, and Mexico. And, according to the foreign minister, we must be quite realistic when it comes to collaborating with Europeans and Britain on this. President Trump has spoken about imposing tariffs on the rest of the globe. In fact, many Canadian businesses support dollar-for-dollar reprisal, and this might be the strategy moving ahead. If Trump imposes tariffs on $100 billion worth of products from us, we should respond by penalizing them in equal measure. We should impose tariffs on $100 billion worth of U.S. products. The G7, or G6 in this case, will now fight a counter-tariff war against Trump. And will it work? It actually relies on their ability to keep their ground. Now, I want us to recall what happened in Colombia a few days ago. Trump secured his first victory in the trade fight. He has now vowed to embargo and tax Colombian goods to the United States until they return illegal aliens to Colombia. And within hours, just hours, the Colombian administration folded in and agreed to Trump's demands. This will further empower Trump, and his tariff threat will be renewed. You can rely on it. There is a reason why Trump is holding back on China while promising tariffs on the West. He sees them as weaker economies that can be pushed around. It is quite possible that he will challenge them with tariffs, and if the collective group collapses like a cheap suit, it is game over for them. Canada, Mexico, and Europe will be compelled to buy more costly U.S. goods, burdening their own economies. Looking at global commerce, the U.S. economy might seem intimidating. They have the world's largest import market, valued at more than $3 trillion. It's twice the size of Germany. Because Canada and the EU did not diversify their trade sufficiently, shifting exports abruptly to China and Asia will be impossible. As a result, they find themselves in a difficult situation. We must grasp the psychology driving Trump's tariffs. Aside from reviving manufacturing, Trump sees this as a valuable negotiation tool with the rest of the globe, and weaponizing the U.S. consumer market is his preferred method. However, it is vital to note that the United States will not get off lightly. When Trump boosts tariffs, the impacts on the U.S. economy are undeniable. When you put import duties on everything, the cost of producing for yourself increases. And there is no escaping this reality. This comparison is great. And if Trump applies a 25% tire duty, imports will decrease. But does that benefit U.S. manufacturing? Sure, more local enterprises will begin producing tires, but they will do it in an inefficient manner. More resources will be diverted from other areas to manufacture tires. In truth, what occurred following Trump's first trade war? Between January 2019 and 2020, U.S. manufacturing jobs decreased by 43,000. That did not assist reshore production. Instead, it increased the cost of goods, making them more costly to purchase. This reduces both local and worldwide demand. What happens when demand falls? Earnings plummet and individuals are dismissed. Universal tariffs are a very awful concept since they will affect the whole U.S. economy. We have no clue how devastating the ripple effects will be. Now, we may pontificate all we want, but the actual damage will be seen only when Trump pulls the trigger, which he most likely will. Aside from inflation, the next major domino to fall is U.S. employment linked to exports. We cannot predict the future, but we can learn from the past. During the peak of the 2019 trade war with China, the United States lost 245,000 jobs. In addition, it reduced U.S. GDP by more than $100 billion. And here's the difference. In 2019, the United States levied a 15 to 25% tax on around $360 billion worth of products imported from one nation. Trump now wants to target the entire planet. This will include more than $3 trillion in U.S. imports. So there's a huge difference here. The consequences will be magnitudes worse. When it comes to exports, the United States is similarly severely exposed. America's largest trading partners provide a significant number of jobs for Trump's economy. The U.S. exported $430 billion worth of goods to Canada, supporting over 2 million U.S. jobs. Exports to Mexico also supported 1.7 million U.S. employment and over 1 million in China. And as we move down the list, we can see how vulnerable Trump's threats are. If America's top 3 trade partners retaliate with tariffs, almost 4 million jobs might be at risk. Worst-case scenario, enormous layoffs. So we need to be objective about this. If Trump applies tariffs, he will permanently alter the U.S. economy. He will also influence world geopolitics. The G7 partnership will become increasingly strained, and trading partners will lose faith in the United States. And this simply opens the door wider for China and the multipolar world to grow. But tell me what you think. Will the West stand up to Trump? Or will they crumble and succumb to the U.S. economy? Stay safe, like, and subscribe as we traverse these tumultuous times.